Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we are assembling the Linh Ly core box for the 10 Thunders faction. This is our typical core box. Got a master, a totem, a enforcer, or a henchman, and 3 minions. Our master is Linh Ly herself, the librarian right here, along with her totem, the Jade Rabbit. Our henchman, Mâp Máp, this Muppet-looking man. And then 3 bookkeepers. Here's one right in the middle. Looking at our renders, got Linh Ly being very quirky with lots of stuff. The Jade Rabbit over here, Mâp Máp, and then our 3 bookkeepers. Our box comes with very small sprues. This is all we're looking at for all 6 models. So that's probably easy for us. Means less work, hopefully. Anyways, we're going to be starting with this sprue, which is kind enough for us to go left to right here. Here's Linh Ly, then the Jade Rabbit, then Mâp Máp, and then our sprue is the 3 bookkeepers. So let's look at Linh Ly. Linh Ly, specifically Linh Ly Bibliothecary, is going to be 9 bits, and we're going to go and grab the body, then do both legs, the back of the dress she's wearing. I think then we combine all 3 pieces of the head, the face, the hair, and the booklight. Unless booklight is on her shoulder, we'll figure that out, but it looks like it's on her head, according to the weird instructions. Once those 3 are combined, we'll add them to the body, and then do the big paper thing here in her right hand and her left arm. Alright, let's grab H1, the body. It's our body. And just wanted to point out that you need to be really cautious because there is a connection to the sprue right here on this key. Goodness, having a hard time focusing. Right there on that key. So just be very gentle with trimming it, or just leave it as is. It's not going to hurt anything. But it'd be better to have it intact with a little bit of flash on it than, break it off. But okay, let's grab H4, which is going to be our left leg, and put it in there. Here's the bit, and I wanted to point out that there's a small groove right here. That is actually going to correspond to this key right here at the bottom, so use that as a guide. There we go. It's kind of an awkward fit. It's a very awkward stance that she's in, but she's just running. But try to make sure that there's not a lot of big of a gap here. And front shot, if I can actually grab her. God, I'm a mess today. This is what we're looking at from the front. As you can see, the key is where it's supposed to be. All right, let's go ahead and get our other leg. H8. There we go, H8. Now we'll go, where our right leg normally goes. I would venture to guess this space right here. Here's attached. It's kind of an awkward position. Just make sure that there's not any significant gappage right here, and don't worry too much about, all this mess. We'll put H6 on there next, and that will cover all of that up. So as long as it's relatively flat, we should be good. Grab H6. There we go. Yeah, just making sure you squish it into place. Should gently adjust the 2 legs to better fit where they are. That looks good. Yeah, okay, so let's move on to the head. Let's go ahead and grab H7, and we'll attach H2 to it first, and then H4 after that. Here is H7, looking at it upright. H2 is going to go right here. You see this tooth. It'll correspond to a connection point. There we go. Okay, it corresponds to this hole right here. H4 is what's called a booklight. It's a little cat-looking thing, but it is going to attach right in here. You can see the divot. Here's a little cat thing, and the connection point I saw corresponds to this tooth right here. Yeah, it's just sitting in her hair. Alright, let's jam this on the body. I'm assuming you know how necks work. Well, it's obviously how it connects to the neck. There is a connection point on the shoulder here that you need to keep in mind. There it is, attached. This woman is 30% hair, at least. Okay, grab H5, and is going to be her right hand. And there it is, it just attests at the middle of the forearm right there. You can kind of see the connection point. That's sort of the angle you're looking for. Now, let's finish up with our last bit, H9. The left arm. Oh, goodness, that was actually kind of difficult getting that left arm in there, but we're done. This is the pose we were looking for and positioning of the arms. At least, more or less, this left arm is a bit of a problem. I'll talk about it as we look at the full model. Linh Ly, Bibliothecary is done. Look how quirky she is. The hardest part is the left arm, by far. The connection point isn't bad on the first attempt you glue it, but if for some reason it is going to get knocked out of place, which it can just because there's not a lot of plastic gluing to not a lot of plastic, and her limbs are really slippery. I dropped her so many darn times. But if it gets knocked off, all that like detail you need to really tell where the limb is supposed to go gets gummed up, and then it's a lot harder to position it. So glue it, and then just don't touch her until that's solidified. Please save yourself some headache. But she's done, looking really nice. Let's move on to the totem, the Jade Rabbit. Here's our rabbit. We're only looking at 6 bits this time. Hooray. We'll combine the 2 halves of the body, G1 and G2. Then we'll add the right arm, G6. After that, combine G3 and G4. Jam the entire body into that afterwards, and then finish up with the book. Here's G1. Now just glue G2 onto it. Yeah, just make sure your rabbit is rabbit-shaped. Now grab G6 and put it into this arm slot. Be very careful, as it is very obviously a tiny, tiny piece. Angling it, use the render on the back of the box. It obviously shows you how the arm's supposed to sit, but it'll glue ever so slightly to the chest, not just the shoulder socket. Okay, now let's combine G3 and G4. Change of plans. I think it's just going to be slightly easier if we glue the rabbit into bit G3 before we add G4 to G3. So we're going to go ahead and do that. G3 is the one with the stick. This one right here. And the rabbit is going to be standing kind of like this. Real hard to sort of describe it. I'm just going to glue it in, then we can look at it. How about that? Okay, there we go. You can see how it's oriented. Let's go ahead and turn him. The foot is ever so gently setting up against the stick, so you can probably glue that as well. But yeah, I think that gives a good idea. So now let's glue the other bit on. Okay, that goes on just fine. Let's grab the book and figure out how to attach that now. The book being G5. Okay, there is almost no indication of where you're supposed to put the book. However, there is the tiniest little connection point right along here. Kind of hard to see. Maybe you can see it if we look at the bottom. Yeah, there's a little notch right there. So that's where we're going to kind of put the corner of the book, like that corner. And now I can't really tell which one is supposed to be on top, so we're going to go ahead and put the sort of mark where the I had to scrape a bit more than I needed to on the bottom to hide that absolute failure of a clip job I did. All right. Actually, I was wrong, sadly, so I apologize, Nate, but the blemish right here is going to have to be on top because I like just being as close as I can for these, but I guess this is a good time to warn you that you need to avoid that happening. That notch on the book cover should not be happening. In my defense, it was a really weird clip out spot right there. But anyways, how I can tell, and I can barely tell what I can tell. On the render, you can kind of sort of see that the corners of the books, you see these square things in each corner. The one closest to the rabbit is slightly thinner, both the top and the bottom, than the one away from the book. And then, you know, orientation, the opening of the book is facing this way. This is how it's going to be facing if the rabbit's like right here. Okay, now we glue it. So this is how I ended up gluing it. I'm relatively certain Weird would prefer you just glue the book to the base and happen to have it up against the mortar? Yes. I'm just showing you where I connected it, but I'll also be attaching it to the base. Jade Rabbit, all done. Hardest part was figuring out how to get the rabbit inside the mortar and then aligning the book. I guess that right arm wasn't the easiest thing either, but as long as you are cautious with tiny bits, should be fine. Not too hard, though. Let's move on to Mâp Máp now. Mâp. Let's start with the body like usual. Do both legs and then the arm. Then the lamppost. We'll figure out how the 3 book lights attach to him, and I think the book is just freestanding on the base. But we'll see if there's a connection point I haven't seen before. So let's start off, grab F6 and F1, combine them. Alright, easy enough to put those together. Now let's grab F2 and jam that in our right leg slot right there. There we go. It's such a big connection point, and it's a little weird. I would actually suggest maybe using super glue on just this one specifically. Because despite the huge surface area of the connection, there's only a couple spots where it actually glues into due to just the shape of both the connection and the bit. But whatever, I'm sure plastic glue will just be fine for most of you. Okay, let's go ahead and grab F4 and jam that into our left leg. Whoops. Right leg didn't have... Sorry, left leg didn't have nearly as much issue as the right leg did in connecting. That one's perfectly fine with plastic cement. Let's grab F5, the left hand. Yet another easy connection. Now we're going to move on to... Oh goodness, let me find the bit. High quality stuff here. F8, right. F8. Mâp Mâp's lump lump. It's going to connect right there. Obviously going up and stuff. Yeah, I thought that was like just jammed into his wrist, but you can kind of see how the wood continues to the ground, so it's fine. It's fine. Let's move on to the book lights. F7, bit F7 is going to go on top of his head right there. There he is. I'm just reading the same thing Mâp Mâp is. Okay. Now let's go to F10, which is going to be kind of the claws on our right hand there. Ah, these things are so cute. Oh, this is what he looks like. Probably the bottom was the best way to show you how it's connected. Okay, now let's give me a sec to quickly figure out our last book light. Kind of hard to see, but there is a connection point right here on Mâp Mâp's leg. You can see the tooth that's kind of vertical, looks slightly out of place with the rest of the fur detail. That's connecting to the book light's thigh, knee. It's both body parts here. Right there, that bit. Okay, glue it. There he is. That is a very small connection point, so I will suggest either putting Mâp Mâp on the base first and then gluing him to Mâp Mâp, or doing that immediately after this. Either way, this should be your last bit that's connected to Mâp Mâp. When you glue him, set him down on the ground so you can make sure that the little pads of the feet are the thing that are touching the ground, not like the entire back of the leg. But yeah, now just add them to your 50, and the additional bit here looks like F3, the book. That's just going to sit on the base. It's not actually glued to Mâp Mâp in any way, according to the instructions and what looks like the render. Anyways, let's get him on the base. Mâp Mâp is all done. Mostly easy build, except for really the book lights, just because the connection points are pretty small for most of them. But that's it, and still a relatively easy build overall. So now we're finally done with the named characters. Let's move on to the bookkeepers, shall we? Here's our spur for the bookkeepers, and as much as it pains me, we're going to go right to left on this one, just because both in the renders and in the instructions, this is the first one that shows up, and then this one, and then this one. So he's going to be our first guy, the D lettered bits. He's only 6, so that's going to be pretty easy. We're going to grab the body, put both legs on and the left arm, and then attach him to these books, and then attach these books to these books. Lots of books. Let's grab D3 and get started. There's our base starting body. Let's grab D1, which is going to be our right leg, and then after that D5, which is going to be our left leg. D1, right leg, and D5, our left leg. It took a bit of weird pressure right on top of the thigh where it connects to the pelvis to get that seam to be as closed as possible, but not that hard to do. Now let's grab D6, the left arm. Here's the left arm. Just make sure it's angled so he's actually reading it like the nerd he is. Now let's grab D2, and I'll show you where it's supposed to connect. Okay, we're looking at it upright. The right foot is just going to slot into this obvious spot right here. And there he is attached. Alright, let's go ahead and grab D6, our last bit, which is going to connect up here. You can already see that connection point. That is going to match right here on the bit. And there we go. Nice and pretty. Oh, the connection point back here. It is just completing the cover of this book, so if it looks like a book, it did good. Now let's get him on a base. Bookkeeper number 1 is done. We're going to call him Arthur. Hardest part, oh goodness. I guess that left leg, just getting it to sit in the hip socket thing correctly. Could have some issue with order if you don't follow the order I do, because if you don't put him before you wrap the books around, it'll be a little awkward getting them in there. But otherwise, easy build. Let's move on to our next bookkeeper. The bookkeeper 2 or B, whatever numbering, lettering scheme you're going off of. We'll combine the two parts of the body, then add the head, do the left arm, and then the right arm, and finish up with the extra bit of the book basing. Here is E4, let's add E3 to it. And now we have a body and some legs. Now let's add E1 into that slot, or the neck should go, E1 being the head. Here's the head. Yes, she is supposed to be arched like that. Okay, let's do our left arm E2, which is the one not holding the book. Okay, left arm is in. Now let's go over here and put E6, the right arm, in with the book. There's the right arm. I don't know what she's doing with it because you can't read it from that angle, but it matches the render, so call it good. Now, last bit, E5, the extra bit of books on the bottom there, that's being covered up by the tweezers. So just jam them on there. There we go. Very fancy. Now, put her on a base. Bookkeeper 2 is done. We're going to call her Mary. Goodness, hardest part of this build was hard to figure out the hardest part. I guess maybe the right arm, just understanding that angle. It's just slightly weird because that's not usually how you hold a book or read a book or anything. But and getting her on the base, I guess, because that's a very small connection point to the base. So be cautious with that. But other than that, easy build. Let's do the last one. Our third bookkeeper has to be even extra, and be upside down for no good reason. Grab the body, then we'll do the head, the hand holding the hat on top of his head, then the right arm holding the book, then we'll glue that entire thing to, I believe, F3 is the one holding our feet. No, we don't. This is the one holding the feet. So F2 is what we'll glue the body to, and then F2 will glue to F4, and then lastly to F3. All right, got it? Probably not, but I'll just keep calling out the names. Grab F7 first. Here's F7, our body. Now add F4, the head. There's the head. Now grab F3, our left hand, which is holding the hat on top of the head. Okay, I was kind of wrong. He's not really holding onto his head. He just maybe caught it as it was falling off. Anyways, it's not sitting flat on top of his head regardless. Now let's do the F6, the right arm holding the book. There's the right arm. There's a notch in the arm that connects to kind of a tooth in the spot it's supposed to glue onto, so you might want to slide it on there instead of place it. You'll get it in correctly, but that's the angle we're looking for. So now let's add the old man to F2. Looking at the inside of F2, you can see where the heels go, and then the rest of the shoe, foot, whatever. Like so. There we go. He's attached. Now let's add him to F1. I'll show you the which side he's going to be attached to. Here's F1, and our bit is going to partially slide underneath the existing stuff. So we're looking at, yeah, like that connection. Okay, there we go. Here's our connection from the side. Looking pretty good. Now let's add our last bit, F3. Alright, we got our guy, and we got our bit, and it's going to go like that. Alright, there we go. Now let's just let it cure and then get him on a base upside down, obviously. Bookkeeper 3 is done. We're going to call this guy Charles. Hardest part was... oh... the right arm. Yeah, we'll say the right arm. Other than that, it was just figuring out where the paper bits go, but that's more of a me problem. I don't think you'll have as hard of a problem than I did because I showed you how they work. So, let's look at the whole box, shall we? We are all done with the Linh Ly core box. It contains Linh Ly, Bibliothecary, Jade Rabbit, Mâp Máp, and Bookkeepers 1, 2, and 3. Overall, a fairly easy box. Hardest parts were maybe the book lights and a few arms here and there and the book on the Jade Rabbit, but a pretty easy build overall. So hopefully you shouldn't have that hard of a time. But I have been your Foreman Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Enjoy your nerds!